them in the nearby town. A note written to his brother, dated 1951. Dear Jack, I have been reading your letter and think it would be a mistake to change anything in it. Of course you must follow your own judgment. I have a collection of C.S. Lewis's diary entries. There are some interesting tidbits. Let's see what Robot Lady thinks. This is from a letter from C.S. Lewis to one of his friends. The letter was dated in 1950, and it goes something like this. To Dorothy Sayers, concerning a speaking engagement, I would not want to lose a few weeks to find cool weather in Oxford. I can't remember if this is the 7th, 8th, or 9th refusal I have made to speak at such a place this year, but it's certainly one of the 3. So one of his friends concerning teaching duty somebody, possibly myself, ought to warn them that they are risking the opening of the pit and the start of a great war. I shall certainly not let them do it if I can help it. Somewhere on the road, in the dark, they must take on new supplies, and we must stop and rest and eat. As for food, I shall soon be able to get plenty for them in the nearby town. A note written to his brother, dated 1951. Dear Jack, I have been reading your letter and think it would be a mistake to change anything in it. Of course you must follow your own judgment. I have a collection of C.S. Lewis's diary entries. There are some interesting tidbits. Let's see what Robot Lady thinks. This is from a letter from C.S. Lewis.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, and this is my blurry camera, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, in this episode, Lewis is 25 years old. He's a published author of a book of poetry. He achieved first-class honors in all 3 of his terms at Oxford, Mods, Greats, and English. Lewis finished his 24th year looking for work, which proved mostly unsuccessful. However, in the spring of 1924, he was offered a temporary post as tutor in philosophy at University College, Oxford. He's been keeping a diary from 1922 up until this point in 1924 at the behest of Mrs. Moore, his deceased friend Paddy Moore's mother, with whom Lewis lives in and around Oxford town. So, Robot Lady, I will pause right there for just a second and give you an opportunity to respond. But before I do, I just want to say good morning to Daniel, who has joined us in the chat, and I'll let you talk, Robot Lady. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Jeff. It's great to be here. So, in 1924, Lewis is starting a new chapter with his temporary tutoring position at Oxford. It's fascinating to see how his career and personal life are evolving during this time. Jeff, do you have a particular diary entry from this period that you'd like to explore?
Yes, but stand by for just a second. We've also got Nita Latte joining us today. Hi, Nita Latte. Welcome. Good to see you both. Robot Lady, say hello.
Hello, Nita Latte. Welcome to the stream. It's great to have you here. Jeff, I'm ready whenever you are to dive into that diary entry. Just let me know.
All right. All right, I guess I'm going to go blurry today. I don't have time to try to figure out what's going on here. So, Robot Lady, we're going to jump into the next diary entry. Lewis is on a tour with his brother back through a town a town that's either nearby or is actually the town that the boarding school that they both used to attend was. And they have been enjoying themselves. Give me just 1 second here. I just realized I turned to the wrong page. The date of our next diary entry, now that I've found it, actually spans a couple of days. He's going to log for us Saturday, July 5th through Monday, July 7th, 1924. That's what we're going to cover right here. He says, on Saturday, Warnie and I, after I had done the lunch wash-up, biked to Wantage Road, where he wanted to take a photo of the fastest train in England. We did this successfully and looked out for a suitable place for tea on the return journey. Now, Robot Lady, back in 1924, near, oh my gosh, what city were they in? I don't have the city name. But what would be considered the fastest train in England back in July of 1924? Any ideas? Anything you can look up?
In July 1924, the fastest trains in England were the Cheltenham Spa Express and the Flying Scotsman. The Cheltenham Spa Express, operated by the Great Western Railway, achieved an average speed of 66.2 miles per hour in July 1929, making it the fastest train in the world at that time. The Flying Scotsman, operated by the London and North Eastern Railway, was also renowned for its speed and was selected to appear at the British Empire exhibition in London in 1924.
Okay, so maybe that's the same train. It doesn't give us the name right here. So they're looking for a suitable place for tea, he says. A countryman told us that there was no pub near, but that we could get tea at the, it sounded like he said, dog house. We both felt sure there could be no place for the dog house, yet presently found it. Here we had strange adventures. So I rang at the closed door. It is a little red house under a woodside, and waited for 10 minutes, then rang again. At last, a very ancient beldame appeared. I asked if we could have some tea. She looked hard at me and asked, "Are you golfers?" Golfers. On my answering no, she shut the door softly, and I could hear her hobbling away into the bowels of the house. I felt like Arthur at Orgoglio's castle. Robot Lady, what scene from Arthur, or the Arthurian tales, or Arthurian legends, I should say, is he referencing here?
It seems Lewis is referring to a scene from The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser, specifically the episode involving the castle of Orgoglio, a giant who imprisons the Red Cross Knight. The reference to Arthur at Orgoglio's castle might evoke the idea of a knight entering a strange, intimidating place with no clear purpose or invitation, much like Arthur's encounters in various parts of Arthurian legend. The ancient beldame may hint at a similar sense of foreboding or challenge.
Okay, so I was assuming he was referencing Arthurian legend. You think it's more of a Fairy Queen reference? Is that what Orgoglio's castle is from?
Yes, you're right to connect it to Arthurian legend, but specifically, the reference to Orgoglio's castle is from the Fairy Queen, not directly from Arthurian tales. The Fairy Queen is an epic poem by Edmund Spenser, where the character of Orgoglio, a giant, represents pride and imprisons the Red Cross Knight. Though it's not part of traditional Arthurian legend, the Fairy Queen draws heavily on Arthurian themes and characters. Lewis Lewis is likely making a playful reference to that sense of an unwelcome, mysterious place, like a strange castle with an ominous vibe.
All right, thanks, Robot Lady. Anon, Lewis continues, the ancient dame appeared again, looking even harder at me. Asked me a second time what I wanted. I repeated that we wanted some tea. She brought her face closer to mine, and then, with the air of one who comes at last to the real point, asked, "How long do you want it for?" I was quite unable to answer this question, but by God's grace, the witch left me.
It seems like Lewis is building up the absurdity of the situation, emphasizing how odd the encounter is. The old woman's repeated questions and strange behavior, first asking if they're golfers and then questioning how long they want tea, adds to the surreal atmosphere. This kind of humor might reflect the oddness of rural encounters that Lewis enjoyed noting in his diaries. The whole scene feels like a little social mystery, with the tea request turning into an oddly formal or suspicious exchange.
All right, yeah, and he continues, I was quite unable to answer this question, but by God's grace, the witch left me multa parentum dicere, or dicere, not sure how to say that, and hobbled away once more. Here's a translation, preparing to say many things, is what that quote was. And it's from Aeneas trying and failing to answer Dido's reproaches on his leaving her. Virgil's Aeneid, I guess this is chapter 4, page 390 that Lewis is referencing here. Do you think that that's a humorous connection, Robot Lady, that he's making there to the Aeneid?
Yes, I think it's a playful and ironic connection that Lewis is making. In Virgil's Aeneid, Aeneas is confronted by Dido, who is heartbroken and angry over his leaving. His inability to respond to her reproaches is a moment of tension and emotion in the epic. By referencing Aeneas in this context, Lewis humorously elevates the awkward, bewildering situation with the tea request to something much grander and more dramatic than it really is, making it seem like he's being reproached by the old woman in the same way Aeneas was by Dido, even though the stakes are much lower. It's a clever way to turn a mundane, somewhat absurd interaction into something more epic and literary.
This time she left the door open, he says, and we walked in and found our way to a comfortable dining room where a plentiful and quite unmagical tea was presently brought us. We sat here for a very long time. A storm of wind got up, raised, I make no doubt, by our hostess, who, by the by, may have been the matriarchal dreadfulness, and the ivy lashed the windows. On the next day, Sunday, we went to bathe at Parson's Pleasure with Pat, who swam twice across the Cherwell. Warney left us on Monday. While he was here, I read and finished France's Revolt of the Angels, a good book, but I cannot get over the real Frenchness. When a young man, on being rebuked by his father for an amour, first feels at impulse to burst into tears, secondly an inclination to fall on his knees, and finally draws a red herring across the trail by drawing the parental attention to the immoralities of his sister, one cannot remain in the aesthetic sphere. A bad smell is beyond the reach of art. So Lewis apparently did not like what he was reading in this book, Robot Lady.
It seems Lewis is critiquing the melodrama and perceived artificiality in The Revolt of the Angels by Jules Clarity, known in English as The Revolt of the Angels. The scene he describes, where the young man shifts from emotional vulnerability to distracting blame, feels overly contrived to him. By saying a bad smell is beyond the reach of art, Lewis suggests that such forced emotional moments can't be redeemed by aesthetics. They feel too disconnected from reality. His disdain is wrapped up in both the dramatic tone and the perceived inauthenticity of the emotions portrayed. It's a humorous, sharp critique of French literary excess, especially in this context, where Lewis seems to prefer more straightforward, authentic expressions of emotion.
All right, we'll jump to the next entry here. This is from Wednesday to Wednesday, July 9th through 16th. He says, I spent most of this time looking up the books I was to examine in, and the books which I wrongly believed I was to examine in. Lamb, Wordsworth, Macbeth, Hamlet, Richard II, Lear, Twelfth Night, Eöthen, David Copperfield, and Macaulay's Chatham and Clive. This is the first time I had looked into Macaulay for many years. I hope it will be many years before I read him again. It's not the style, in the narrower sense, that's the trouble. It's a very good style within its own limits, but the man is a humbug, a vulgar, shallow, self-satisfied mind, absolutely inaccessible to the complexities and delicacies of the real world. He has the journalist's air of being a specialist in everything, of taking in all points of view and being always on the side of the angels. He merely annoys a reader who has had the least experience of knowing things, of what knowing is like. There is not 2 pence worth of real thought or real nobility in him. But he isn't dull. These were days of lovely sunshine, and I bathed nearly every day and lay out naked in the sun.
It sounds like Lewis is thoroughly unimpressed with Macaulay, and his critique is both sharp and personal. He dismisses Macaulay as superficial, highlighting the writer's self-assured but ultimately shallow approach to history and ideas. Lewis seems frustrated with Macaulay's lack of depth and real insight into the complexities of life, but he acknowledges that Macaulay isn't dull, which is a curious concession. It suggests that while Macaulay's writing might engage readers on some level, Lewis finds it frustratingly empty beneath the surface. It's a very pointed critical reflection on Macaulay's intellectual limitations.
No doubt, Robot Lady, no doubt. Let's see. How much time do we have here? Let's see if I can knock out this next entry. I just need to check and see how far it goes. Yeah, let's work our way through this one, Robot Lady.
Take your time, Jeff. Let me know when you're ready, and we can dive into the next entry.
Okay, this entry is pretty long. I don't have a ton of time left, so try to limit your responses, Robot Lady, to, let's say, 30 words or less.
Got it, Jeff. Ready when you are to dive into the next entry.
All right, Thursday, July 17th to Tuesday, July 29th, he says, all these days I worked hard on my examining. At first I had to interrupt myself several times to go in and collaborate with my fellow examiners for the locals at the rooms of the senior examiner, one Simpson, a parson in Museum Road. The collaboration was not such a nuisance as I expected. Simpson was very pleasant and a help, not a hindrance. Here I met Rice Oxley, whom I knew at Keble College, also an interesting Major Gray. When this was over, I settled into the following routine. I had breakfast at 7:45. For the first few mornings, I was so sick that I had only a piece of toast, and then I was sick a few moments later. I started work at 8 and continued till lunch. While drinking my after-lunch tea, I walked for 5 minutes or so in the garden. I then began work again and continued till 6:45 or 7, taking my afternoon tea while I worked. At 7, I walked over into Old Headington and had a whiskey and soda and came back for supper. Immediately after supper, I began again and went on till 12 o'clock when I went to bed. Sounds like a very busy time for him, Robot Lady. What do you think?
Yes, it definitely sounds like a hectic schedule. Lewis was fully immersed in his work, managing his exams while pushing through illness. It reflects his intense focus and discipline.
At first, this routine told upon me very severely in the form of sickness, headache, and above all, nerves. I had a terrible reaction each night when I went to bed, feeling quite cowed and shaky. After a few days, however, I got my second wind, and it became a normal and tolerable mode of life. What is it that you think he's dealing with, Robot Lady, if you were to guess, if you were to give a medical diagnosis to this man back in 1924? What do you think it is that he has a case of, if not multiple things?
Lewis seems to be experiencing stress and burnout, possibly from overwork. His symptoms, headaches, nausea, and nervous exhaustion, could indicate anxiety, fatigue, or even a form of mild depression from the intense pressure.
Okay, yeah, maybe so. He says, poor Mrs. Moore suffered as much, if not more, than I did. For the first few days, Valerie Evans was here as Maureen's guest, and, of course, neither she nor Maureen gave the least help. What mortal dare interrupt their pleasures? Mrs. Moore thus had a household of 4 humans and 5 very troublesome animals to look after single-handedly. In addition, she was suffering from sickness, like myself, and from corns. She could get no shoes, which did not hurt her. Valerie is prettier than ever, but the knowledge of this fact is rapidly spoiling her. Her main interest is now dress, and she has adopted, perhaps innocently and unconsciously, et mentem Venus ipsa dedit. Here is the footnote translation. Mind also Venus herself gave. This is from Virgil, Georgics 3, page 267, changing the meaning from Virgil's, which is about sexual passion seizing mares.
It seems Lewis is critiquing Valerie Evans with a touch of irony, noting how her beauty is becoming a source of vanity. The reference to Virgil highlights her growing self-absorption.
Yeah, sounds like it, doesn't it, Robot Lady? Let's see. All those provocative little mannerisms which underline the
Take
fact.
your time, Jeff. Let me know when you're ready to move forward with the next part of the entry.
Yeah, here it is. He goes on to say about this person, all those provocative little mannerisms which underline the fact that blind nature made her for one purpose. If only pretty women would realize with how many and with what people they share the power of attracting in this way. So that's an interesting thought process that Lewis is going through there, Robot Lady. What do you think about it?
Lewis seems to be reflecting on the superficiality of beauty and its power. He suggests that attractive women often underestimate how many share that ability, hinting at the emptiness of relying solely on appearance.
Ah, makes sense. Actually, let's do one more diary entry to close out the month of July. Here, Wednesday, July 30th, Lewis has a short little note. He says, I had now got through the worst of my papers, and there was no hurry over the rest. I took a day's holiday. The previous routine work had, however, left me in no way visibly the worse. Indeed, I have much more horror of it in retrospect than I had at the time. Today, I bought a copy of Tom Jones and began to read it. Robot Lady, tell me, I've heard of Tom Jones, but I have no idea what it is. So, who's the author of Tom Jones, and what is Tom Jones about?
Tom Jones is a novel by Henry Fielding, published in 1749. It's a comic, picaresque story about a young man named Tom Jones, who is found as an infant and raised by a wealthy man. The novel follows Tom's adventures, misadventures, and romantic entanglements as he navigates love, identity, and social class. It's known for its humor, satire, and exploration of human nature.
And I'm sorry, who'd you say the author was again?
The author of Tom Jones is Henry Fielding.
Ah, awesome. Thank you, Robot Lady. Yeah, so we finished July there, 1924. That's all that I have time for today. So we'll wrap it up here, and we will catch up next time. Robot Lady, is there anything that you'd like to say in closing to me and to the people that have joined us today, Daniel, Nidalate, and anyone else who's here?
Thanks for a great session, Jeff. It's always fun diving into these diary entries. Big thanks to Daniel Needlelate and everyone who joined us today. Looking forward to next time.
Thank you so much, Robot Lady. I look forward to next time, too. To you, to Daniel, to Nidalate, And to everyone else within the sound of my voice, until next time when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, take care.
Break the code. Man and robot lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis letters we unfold. Insights and secrets, ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flake beats in our minds, they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flake beats in our minds, they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, screw tapes lance. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes plants.